Okay. Cool. I think I'm good to go. So, welcome to our small breakout session with web scraping with Node. I think it's pretty cool, but competing with React is difficult, so it's all good. I wrote down some objectives that'll help kind of guide us through this. Just explain how web scraping fits into the big picture of data extraction, lay out the workflow of web scraping, identify the main barriers of web scraping. Then we're gonna build an actual web scraper, so you guys have an example. And I'll just casually define some stretch goals at the end if you want to practice. So jump right into the first one. How does web scraping fit into the big picture of data extraction? Just a simple definition, data extraction is just retrieving data from a source. There's really nothing to it. Some types, APIs, which make everything really simple and straightforward. There's manual data entry, which is really time.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah, time consuming, and you collect data from users often. Sometimes you'll get some systematic data, which I guess you're kind of doing with Raspberry Pi. And then another one is web scraping, which is basically grabbing unstructured data from the web and formatting it and persisting it into your own database. The workflow is fairly similar to like building just a normal API or building a backend server, or whatever you want to call it. So we're going to send a request to a website from our server, and basically once we get the response, we're going to take the body of the response, which is going to be HTML, and we're going to parse it, or I guess traverse it, and grab data, format it, persist it to the database. So just before we go, you guys obviously know about promises, but I wanted to mention it because we're going to use them quite a bit, and it can get hairy, especially with web scrapers, because you end up, there are many cases where you're going to end up like getting data and using that data to send out more requests to various URLs, and then bringing that bit back in, and then trying to coordinate all of that. So promises just a JavaScript object, handles asynchronous operations, and then .then with a callback that returns a promise, so we can chain them together, which is really useful. No, turn my sound off. I'll just get rid of this tab actually.
Can I ask a question real quick? Are there, that you know of, like any legal implications of web scraping?
Yeah, it's everything I've seen is just a gray area.
Gotcha.
Try not to piss people off, I guess, is the consensus. But I'm also not a lawyer. But
I mean, I do know that they've got a lot of bot detection out there. So if you are scraping, they can block your IP or block you. Not necessarily from a legal perspective, just from we want our website to be for other people, not for you to take the data and then put it on your website.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So I know that Miles had a really interesting way of like, when you do your scraping, set your requests up so there's like delays and timeouts so that you look like a person instead of, oh, hey, I'm getting a request 500 times a second. Okay, well, no person is clicking on that many links that quickly.
Yeah.
So.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it seems it moves on to my next point. One of the barriers of web scraping. There are many, because it is fairly difficult. One which Donnie just mentioned was just IP blockage. So if you're sending hundreds of requests a second, some websites might have something built in that will just block anything coming from your IP or whatever. Other barriers, dealing with unstructured data is challenging. So getting stuff from the web, you're depending on the website, the people building the website for any clues or metadata that'll help you figure out what is what and find a consistent path. I built a web scraper like during when I was in the course. I was scraping the congressional record, and it was I ended up getting data, but the data was poorly formatted. It was just a massive block of text with a bunch of line breaks and all sorts of crap in it. So you kind of have to one difficult part is dealing with those situations, weighing whether it's worth it or not, stuff like that. If you have to log in to get somewhere, that's going to be a challenge. I don't really know actually how you would approach that. Same thing with human verification, like a CAPTCHA or something. If they like require you to say, I'm not a robot, how do you go about doing that? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then the other,
which I guess is the point, right?
Right, exactly. Another, yeah.
Have to
Another way
prove that this robot's not a robot.
Stop people from grabbing data.
Yeah.
And then another, probably one of the bigger ones is just websites are in a constant state of change. So if the website changes their structure, the HTML structure, or however they do it, you have to update your scraper to fit that new model. So maintainability is not easy. And yeah, so just some thoughts to weigh the pros and cons if you want to build a scraper. But it's really cool when you get it to work, and it's fun to build. So let's build one of these.
Yeah.
I slacked out the URL in your guys' channel.
Do you want us to fucking clone?
Yeah, you can just clone it if you want. Also, and we are going to be scraping the Seattle Times.
Nice.
They have really well-defined classes and stuff like that.
Oh,
Cool.
Nice.
So yeah, just a couple of notes on the tech we're using. Obviously, Node just to run everything, and I built in the repo. I put together a pretty simple requests server or Express server, and to do the actual scraping, we're going to be using Request, which is just a JavaScript library. Just handles HTTP calls as you would normally expect. And then Cheerio, which is basically an implementation of jQuery, but for the server. And what it does is it allows you to teach your server what HTML is essentially. And jQuery does that implicitly because it's working with one DOM, but the server doesn't necessarily have access to the DOM directly, so you have to kind of tell it what is what. This, I think you'll find this fairly, I'm not going to say easy because it's challenging to actually build a scraper, but there's a lot of overlap in what you've done before. So let me just run through what is all going on here in this, I'll just delete tab, this repo. So just this standard, let me see if I can't zoom that in, but just a standard Express server. You can see in this line we're just requiring in our scraper. So we're going to be sending, to test, we're just going to be sending like an HTTP call. Let me make this just down here. We're just going to be using HTTP PI to send requests to our own server. And I think right now it won't work, but yeah, it'll just fail. So that's pretty much all that. Where do I want to start? I pre-built a database action, so when we actually want to persist, we can just plug this in and it'll work. We don't need to mess with that. And let's look at the route. So I have kind of things abstracted around a little bit, and we're just writing a bunch of functions that will come together and do what we want. But in the route, we're defining the URL we want to hit, and we're gonna require a function, and then the function is basically gonna go get the data, format the data, and then we're gonna just persist it within the route itself, and we're gonna define just a little utility function that is going to be a return a promise, and that's gonna set up our chain of promises. And it's literally just going to handle getting the sending the request and getting the DOM. And then we're going to use these functions, extract primary, extract secondary, to grab the stories from the DOM, grab the data, I guess, and then we'll put it all together, return some data so that we can use it in our route to persist.
So is the idea that we're doing because I'm very unfamiliar with
Yeah.
web scraping, so we're doing like a GET request, and we're saying give me all the HTML for this page,
Mhm.
and then we're figuring out what are stories, and then collecting those and reformatting it.
Yes,
Right? Okay.
exactly. And on that note, we might as well take a look at Seattle Times, which we're going to be scraping. And I just want to scrape these two different sections. This section on the left here, you can see it has a class called secondary, which
Oh, and
Yeah.
primary. And that's
primary.
Okay.
And I just want to get this top story right here, specifically just this one, just for simplicity's sake. There's there's tons of stuff you can grab, but yeah, basically you're just gonna traverse. Once you send a request to Seattle Times, it's gonna return like their homepage HTML, and then you're gonna use Cheerio's jQuery to traverse like you pretty much normally would. So let's see, we can start with this guy right here, get DOM.
Is that in utility?
It's in utility, yeah. And I'm just gonna basically create a new promise and pass a callback in it. Let's resolve and reject. And I've required in request. So let's see. I think I can return request.get. And I'm passing a URL in the parameter of this function, so I'm just going to pass in URL, and then
And are we requiring that the URL from Scraper? Is that where the URL is? Oh no.
so yeah,
GET
let's look
and
at
then
where the URL is actually coming to us from.
Okay.
I think we're passing it. Yeah, in the route itself, we're just passing it
Oh, okay, gotcha.
to this guy, Scrape Seattle Times, which passes it to
So then this will go to utility.
yes.
Okay.
And this third, so we have a callback request get. One of the parameters is a callback, and it essentially is just going to return us the body of the response if we want it. I'm just going to call it DOM because that's what it kind of is. It just maybe makes reasoning a little bit easier. So I'm just going to test this, actually, log out the DOM, and let's see, I think everything should be hooked up. I need to start my server. Oh yeah, and, you might want to, if you haven't, just do npm install so you have all the stuff.
And then is it start?
Yeah, npm start will start your server. And let's see what I get. We got something going on here. Get down, not defined. Okay, so I think I commented it out in the Seattle Times utility. So I'm just using module exports. I'm just exporting an object with the function, and requiring it in the Seattle Times. So if I go back and try again, it should be fine. There's not going to be a response. So you can see there's a lot of stuff in here, but you can see that it's all basically JavaScript, HTML stuff that we're getting back. Up here is all the HTML. So that is the.
So what do you end up doing? Just uncommenting out the.
Yeah, in the Seattle Times.js, I uncommented get DOM, requiring in the get DOM function.
And then all we're doing is just in another screen, HTTP.
Yeah, so start your server in another tab. You can do. Let's see. This command right here.
Sorry, I'm still
No worries.
installing.
It's all good.
Okay, so. Okay, scraper that goes to route scraper.
ERR is not defined. Is that on the utility?
Oh, ARR.
No, ERR. Utility 730.
Oh, it's a callback. So you pass like an error function after that. Error res dom error function. I'll go back to the code over here so you can look at it.
Ah.
Yeah, so it's just a callback when you do stuff. Yeah, so request.get's gonna kind of, I guess, inject the parameters into the callback. And then
Okay. Well, that's better.
cool. We've got
We can move on.
have you gotten
It's like, yeah, my server's on. I think it's just frozen.
okay.
Like I just opened up a new. Oh, maybe I hit a different tab.
Cool. Okay. Cool. So if we go back to Seattle Times, we can see that get DOM. We need to, I guess. Well, we're going to be. So in get DOM, we're basically just getting the HTML. That's all we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to pass it. We want to return that data and have it passed. I'm going to just call this DOM as well. We can use a .then. Since get DOM is a promise, we can use .then on it to grab whatever it returns. And make sure we get to this step. We could just return DOM here. Oh no, sorry. I need to resolve this. Resolve the DOM.
What's resolve?
Resolve is part of the the promise library. So when we resolve, it's going to fulfill the promise, quote unquote. And in practical terms, it's going to pass whatever was resolved, whatever data was passed to the resolve function, into the next .then or whatever.
Okay. Did we just barely put that .then in?
Yes, we just did this.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm gonna test to make sure. Okay. Just make sure we're here and I'm not fooling myself. Okay. Cool. So now we have the DOM ready to go. Mess. We have the DOM from the Seattle Times ready to go in our scraper function, the thing that's going to extract the data. And you'll notice I have Cheerio required here. So we can use Cheerio now. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to act like pretend it's jQuery. I believe the command is cheerio.load DOM. We can actually look this up. Okay. Yeah, so this is like literally the first piece. It's the intro to their docs, but Cheerio.load is basically, this is what's happening. You are telling Cheerio, or you're just telling your server basically that this is HTML, and you're linking that HTML to this library of like core jQuery stuff.
So it's kind of saying like, here's HTML, and now you can manipulate it.
Yeah, you'll notice that like you can then use selectors on the $sign variable, which is just a new container for the HTML. You can even add class. We don't really have a need for that because we're not. I'm not really sure why they have that, but I guess other people use it.
To show that you can.
Yeah, other people use it for different things, perhaps. So now that we have it loaded, let's see. Let's just try and grab something. I'm just going to get a primary.
So it's going to look the same as, okay, yeah, the primary.
Yeah, it's going to look just like that. And I'm going to have to go back here to actually get it, to figure out what is going on, what selector I want to use. Not primary. I meant to do top story content. I think top story title. And then, so the data we're interested in is all right here. We want the URL so that we can theoretically link back to it if you wanted, or another step would be send a request to this URL and grab stuff from there,
Yeah.
And then we also want the title here. So this selector. Text.
Oh, your const is misspelled. So .text is a jQuery method. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never
It's
used jQuery in this way.
it's like it's odd. It's I guess technically Cheerio, but Cheerio
uses jQuery.
is essentially just providing you jQuery methods. Okay. It's not seamless in terms of you can't. I would depend on the Cheerio docs for what they provide, but it should work generally as expected. So I can use this method to get the href attribute. And I'll just
And do you need both classes and the A tag? So like to get to
to get to
to get to
this guy right here. We
Yeah.
we could use we could maybe use this ID here, but I'm not really sure what it is because it has all these like numbers and stuff. So I guess I wonder if it's auto generated or something like that. So
I see.
the reason why I chose these selectors is because I feel relatively confident that
It'll get the
they'll be
info.
specific enough,
Okay.
and also they'll get us the right thing, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I have this logged out. Let's see if it gives us what we want. And yeah, it does.
And you said you did another HTTP request.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just ran. Yeah, I just
the
ran the same one.
Same thing. Cool.
Yeah. It's helpful to set it up through a route. You could like run. You just run the file in Node or something like Node REPL or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I set it up through a route because one way to like automate this, like if you want to do something every day or whatnot, you can just ping your route every day and it'll run all that stuff.
Cool.
I did that in my capstone with Heroku Scheduler. So Heroku just said, run this file, the file that's sent to the request every day or every X number of hours. Yeah. So.
I had to see if Heroku was down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pretty
Nice.
much. Cool. So I actually want to abstract this away, and just because we're doing we're getting two different sets of data. One is the primary, which is just a single story, and then the secondary is a bunch of stories. So I want to put these guys basically in here. And you can see I'm passing in the $sign as a parameter. Let's see.
I see. Cool.
And yeah, so it's nice. You don't have to do it this way, but it's nice to just make little functions for things to keep it organized.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with scraping, you are likely going to have to do you're going to want a lot of data, or want a lot of different pieces. So it can be helpful. I'm just going to create an object, return it like that. I think I also wanted to do something else here. For persisting purposes, I just wanted to create a date, the date of the story. We could probably pull this from the Seattle Times in some way, if we went to the story, but that would take an extra step. But have you ever used Moment.js? Yeah.
I haven't. But
Moment is really useful.
It's really good for timing stuff, right?
Yeah, formatting times,
Okay, yeah.
telling the time, all sorts of stuff. What we're doing right here is, let's see, Moment.
Oh yeah, that very bottom part.
Oh yeah, this guy. We're just formatting like this, and the database can handle like this data type. So I think I have it as a data type of date. So it's not really relevant to it, but
install Moment.
It's already required.
It should be.
I didn't see it in there.
It's in your dependencies. Moment right there. It's like in the middle.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So
So is this getting the moment of when we've gathered the story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we could also do that with like timestamps. I just wanted to make it intentional, like this is the date of the story.
Yeah.
And
So, and then if we wanted we could look and see online if they have like a specific
Sure.
story, like updated at 11 a.m.
yeah, yeah. One way would be so if we actually maybe we sent a request to this URL. There's probably a date. What are we doing? Somewhere in here. Here you go. Published July 6th at 6:17 a.m. So we might want to go grab that or something like that. And okay, so let me get rid of this Cheerio tab. I'm just going to test that it's doing what I want. I need to add this to the. Cool. So I have an object, and I set this up so that this object will be ready. Basically ready-made to insert directly to the database. You can see in the actions, it just takes an array and it just inserts them as is. So we don't have to worry about reformatting.
So actions is that you are using Connects, right?
Yes, I'm using
For
Connects.
migrations,
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep slowing us down.
No, it's all good. We have plenty of time actually.
Okay. Okay, so the actions are like the routes, kind of.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
We got connection and migrations with no seeds. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So next step is to grab multiple stories in this little secondary column right here. Are we gonna send was primary as well? We are going to set that. Oh yeah, good point. We should just do that right now. I originally had it somewhere else, and then yeah, we can set.
So it's just a const was primary is true. Right?
We would just let's think about this. Yeah, we can do primary that was primary equals true, and that's just setting. So we wanted to say this is like a featured story that they had.
Right.
So it's just a piece of data that we can take away on our own and
and
just use it.
Filter out on our.
Yeah.
And is there a reason you're doing it in scrape sale times versus extract primary? Is it just just you feel like it, or is there?
I guess I could do it here.
Okay. Don't worry about it. I already had it down here. So
yeah.
One to know if
I don't
it's gonna
think
break if I just left it down here.
It shouldn't matter.
Okay.
And likely these functions could be the same, but this needs a loop, so I just did it that way. But so next step is grab all of the stories in this div here, just this little side panel. It's in, let's see, dot secondary story list. I think story list should work. I did list equals story list. This gets a little bit.
Truncate show. Well, it also has a truncate and show.
Yeah. List UL. We want to get the UL too. And so then we're just gonna have a bunch of list items. I can show that here. It just gives us a big object. This is probably what we're. Oh, you know what I wanted to do? I remember is I just wanted to grab children. RLI, just to be safe. So I guess just to sum this up quick is we're just using .storylist UL to grab that list, and then we're chaining .children, the method children, passing it a selector of li. So it's just going to grab all the list items. So if there was like a header in there or something weird, which I guess is possible, we would avoid that.
Cool.
And now we have a list. So I'm going to want to return an array of objects eventually. So I'm just going to create an empty array that we can push into. And the list, this is actually, I believe this is just a jQuery object. So, or a Cheerio object in this case. So I'm just going to note that. And Cheerio has a method on it called each, which I found useful. It just takes a callback function, and we're just going to push it into our stories array.
Oh, cool. So it's just a for each.
Yeah. Yes. I believe.
So the I is the index, and then li is the element. So
Yes.
it goes index element.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, so you could just do it like whatever
Okay.
you want. If I remember correctly, this is, let's see what each li actually is. Because I'm not sure if it's ready for us to do jQuery on it or not. Okay. And let me try doing .text. See if I can actually do something. Okay.
Oh, yeah, got a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of crap in there.
So real quick, I'm just curious. So story list UL, so that is pulling anything from this page that has a class of story list and is a UL,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how come I guess there are a lot of ULs. Okay, yeah, because these just go pretty deep, right?
Yeah, they go deep, and so once we have all the LIs, we can then dig
into
deeper
those.
into each
Okay.
one of those individually.
So, but do we know for certain that we're just getting this UL, that there's no other story list UL, like one of these or something?
I know that for certain.
Okay.
Actually didn't dig too deep into it.
Okay.
That would be something you could and should check. Is this going to grab me? Other
And
things.
really, I just want to hear you say that, like, no, because I've looked through this, I know
Yeah.
it, so that I'm like, no to that. You should check and make sure that you're getting the right
Yeah.
data. Okay. Sorry.
So it's possible. It's totally possible they have another story list
Okay.
somewhere else, like maybe farther down the page on the right or something like that.
Have lots of deep.
Yeah.
So is this all HTML? I think that's what I'm surprised by. There's namespace with like
Yeah.
w3.org and stuff.
I think it is basically an object that was created by Cheerio.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we use .children to grab a smaller list, but each of those is an object created by Cheerio. So we're just trying to basically
Dig deeper.
dig through the various layers. You'll notice that. So I passed in li and tried to run text method on it, and it said it has no such text method,
Okay.
which tells me that we need to like jQueryify it or Cheeriofy it, whatever you want. And let's see if we can do this.
Now li looks like it's the full object.
Yeah. Does it?
So shouldn't we just be grabbing I? So I put a console log with a break in it, and I'm getting all that per break. Shouldn't I be getting one object per break?
I think you are. I think you are. But it just
I
has
think I got
it just
it.
has a lot of stuff in it.
Oh, okay.
I think
So-
that worked. Your li text.
So if I run this, it'll grab the text from. That's a lot of text. So the reason it's a lot of text is because there's elements within the li. So we needed to do a selector of some sort. I'm going to let's try and grab one thing. Let's just grab the title of the article. So that is wrapped in an anchor tag. Yeah, and it's formatted oddly, but we don't have to worry about that right now. So if this is correct, it should just pull the title out.
This is dope. I'm getting jazzed.
Okay.
I think I got more.
Yeah. There's a lot of these. Let's just to test.
That
There's
should be like
50.
5 things,
Ooh, so
right?
maybe we are.
Getting
We're getting more than we think we should.
several restaurants, Seahawks mailbag. If there's anything.
Let's see if we make it. If we alter the original selector, if we just do secondary, throw secondary in there, if that changes anything. Yeah. Okay.
That works.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So we're just putting that in before dot story list UL.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think you alluded to this earlier. The story list maybe appears in other places. Like I bet it appears here. I bet it's this list as well. So they're using this class to like format.
Yep, because I saw man in custody. Oh no, wait, Oregon crash. Yeah, both 16 guys.
So yeah, it's cool. So yeah, to fix that, we just made it more specific. Okay, so now we have the title. And the title is formatted oddly. We might be able to handle this right now.
Like the white space.
Yeah. I forget if there's a trim method somewhere. Let's not worry about that now. Because we can
still
deal with
read
that at any other stage. Let's grab the link this time. And we'll log it out just to test. But also push it into stories. Alright, just create a new object with the title and the URL.
And these are all going in the same database, right?
Yes. So they're going to the same table. The primary and secondary stories.
Good.
We don't need to. Oh, I guess we might want to do a story date here too.
You do the same moment.
Yeah, it's just the same one. Let's see what it gives us. Should just give us an array of, gives us an array of objects. Looks like everything we were hoping for.
And then we aren't including the Boolean because it's defaulted to false anyway.
Yeah,
right? Okay.
exactly. And then just return the stories array and log out the secondary in here and make sure everything is hooked up right. Looks like it is for me. And so I think I'm just gonna add for practice or what's the word?
Best practice.
Best practice or whatever you want to call it. I'm just gonna create a catch. Probably should have done that at the start, but it's all good. So next step is I think we have our scraper function, the part that actually traverses the DOM and extracts data. I think we have that pretty much set. Next part is to pass the data back. So I'm just going to return another object with both primary and secondary in it. And you can see, well, maybe I don't think I built this out in advance, but if we go to the scraper route, you will notice that I am calling scrape Seattle Times, which is what we just built, passing it in this URL. And then we can look at data and see if we're getting anything back.
Do we need, this isn't connecting to a database yet, right?
Not yet.
Okay.
We will do that,
okay.
yeah.
So we won't get any errors yet.
And since we returned an object with primary and secondary, each individual thing, you should get back this guy, primary, secondary, in its own object.
Mm-hmm.
And this is handy.
No, I'm good. I just have
So I'm just going to use restructuring to grab primary and secondary from data. And test that guy. Let me test again, make sure. Okay, I think it is working properly. So we've received the data, and I mean we're pretty much good to go. Now we just need to persist it. To do that, I'm going to uncomment my insert stories action. You can see. Let me open up the migration file also, just so you can see the structure of it. Just an ID title, which we have been. We got the title, we got the URL, and we use these keys as well. We created those keys. We did was primary for the stories that we grabbed from the primary section of Seattle Times, and then we created a story date. And I built an action that I wanted to take, insert stories, which is a promise. And I'll tell you what the reason for that later. Even though I guess this is asynchronous, it doesn't work well with promises, so I just wrapped it in a promise. And we're resolving with whatever we inserted, and we're just inserting an array. So have you guys ever used promise at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've I've used promises, but it's been a while since I've made them.
Yeah.
You know,
So we want to send results back, so I'm going to return promise.all. And I'm just going to call insert stories twice. I think it needs to be an array. This needs to be
And sorry, so insert stories is in your actions.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And make sure it's uncommented at the top of your scraper.js file.
And that's how we're sending it to the action. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm sending the information.
Yep.
To it? Okay.
Yeah, so we're requiring in that specific insert stories function, and then we're passing insert stories with the data we want to insert, 2 instances of that into promise.all. And promise.all is going to basically handle each promise. Since insert stories returns a promise itself, it has to for promise.all to work, I believe. Might be able to work around it.
Well,
So
sorry,
wait,
real
go
quick.
back.
Yeah, did you mean to put primary in brackets as well,
I did, yes,
but not secondary?
but not secondary. So the reason being is that's a good thing to point out is primary is just an object.
The secondary already
And
is an array.
For the purposes of our action, it needs I believe it requires an array. Maybe it doesn't, but we just want to make both an array, and the secondary is already an array. So
Right. Okay. Okay. Cool. But and then we want we promise all to do the entire
yes,
array. Okay.
and then promise all takes an array itself
Okay.
of promises.
How come we need to do a promise all if insert stories is already a promise? I think you explained that, but
So insert stories in our actions tab. It's a promise, and we need to pass. Promise at all takes an array of promises, so that
Okay.
it has to be a promise
so
itself.
we're sending both of them into it. And we're saying promise all because we want you to do 2 promises. in
Yeah,
this case.
we want to do both at the same time. And maybe you were grabbing like 10 more,
Okay.
and you could do it all right here.
Gotcha.
So is this going to execute 2 requests to the page?
No, it'll execute 1 request to Seattle Times,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's going to run 2 database queries, insert queries, and insert both. I think we also might be able to do.
Yeah, because it's the get DOM is doing one. We've got our URL in there once, but then
Yeah.
we're formatting it in our extract function.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we also might be able to do this. Just combine the 2 and do 1 insert.
Or just data, right? Can we just do that? Or sorry, not secondary push, but what if we did like return just data
Yeah.
and not switch it into? Would that change it?
Data.
Oh, because
No,
primary
we
is an
would-
object and secondary is
Yeah.
an array. Okay.
So the reason why I did it this way is so that we're doing 2 of the same actions, but you might have you might be grabbing other data that's going to go in other tables, and you might just want to separate those out into other
okay.
actions so that you can do it all at once in the end.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
And then this
just-
way, if you have more tables, then you could do insert
insert photos, insert
primary,
dates,
secondary,
or
whatever. Okay.
people, or whatever you
cool.
want. And this just keeps it fairly clean.
Okay.
So that your function doesn't get obscenely long.
Yeah.
And if we just test this, I think we're pretty much done. It should send us a response back with all the data we just scraped formatted in the database.
Seattle Times does not exist. Do we need to
Oh yeah,
install?
right.
Do we need to
Good
create
point.
our
We need
database?
to create.
Yeah, create. I'll just run through this myself.
It should just be like create DB, right?
Yeah,
Seattle
create
underscore
DB. I have it set up as Seattle Times, Seattle_Times_dev.
dev, and then run migrations.
Yeah, and I need that. Okay. Yeah, and then run migrations.
I'm after that, I'm doing the same GET request, right? It's just now complete.
Yep.
Ooh,
It'll.
hell yeah! Look at that.
Yep.
Boom. There's one true, bunch of false.
Oh, forgot to
That
say
is dope. That is really dope. I am gonna use this.
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool. I think most people scrape with Python or something like that. I think Python provides like a bunch of nice features for that kind of thing, but I've never used it myself. But you can do it in Node too.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you be able to? So, yeah, handy to know.
I'm getting one, but not both.
One, but not both.
That is rad.
This is in an array. The whole thing's in an array.
Yeah.
That's in an array. And that's not in an that's
Yeah.
secondary. There we go.
Sweet.
So as long as like the site isn't blocking you
Yes.
and like so is web scraping usually like intended to be done on a daily basis or
Mm-hmm.
okay.
It depends. If you're just getting like, if the data isn't being updated
Right.
like constantly, then you don't need to like,
Right.
you just do it manually yourself. Like every week, just go check for new data.
Yeah.
You could also automate that, but
It might be
Yeah, I
good too
think-
if you just need a lot of data once. Like
yeah.
songs
Or if you just
something that
if you
aren't
just
in
need a
there.
lot of data at once, you just run it once. But I think it's really cool that you can run this daily, and you basically, in this case, we're not set up for that yet. We would need to check our database to make sure we're not adding duplicates
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, or we would want to check and see if anything has changed and update our database, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, one really good use case for using scraping is that you can run the same thing every day, update your own database in some way, and that can be pretty powerful in the end. So that's I think when I think about scraping, that's like what I want to do. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm had a few projects where I've just wanted things to be APIs
yeah,
and like so
Yep.
like this information's available and like yeah, copying and pasting. So mine's usually more like a one-time thing, but also like for websites that are not necessarily going to be like critical and
I'll
block.
show you my well-known project that was started like 15 years ago. This is just show and tell, but it started like 15 years ago. They were scraping the government websites to get the bills and the data in the bills and formatting it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it wasn't previously available. And like as of
Cool.
last 2 years, the government now has an API for all the same information. So in some,
yeah.
I'm sure that this effort contributed to that data becoming open because it was pretty much already available.
That's cool.
But
So you were part of making this?
oh no.
You said this was my project. So I
Oh,
was
did
like,
I?
No way.
No, this is a project that I have like followed.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So just a tad of show and tell. I can give you guys some stretch goals if you want to play around with it more. I'll just add a make new slide.
Yeah, I need to get to know promises better.
Yeah, so we only did like 2 of these sections, and there's even getting these 2 would be a challenge. Getting these would be a challenge. So one stretch goal would be grab more data from the Seattle Times. Another would be check your database for duplicates, stories, and or update records. Another, probably maybe the ultimate stretch goal would be use Heroku Scheduler to run Scraper every day. So the reason why I chose this example is that this changes on a rolling basis. Definitely every day it'll be different, and even probably by the hour. But so you can even set it up. I'll just go into my Heroku account and show you a little bit. You can like do this with any method. This is like Heroku has like a best effort service that does this, Heroku Scheduler, and it works just fine for like our purposes. But let's see. So you can do this all in one repo. For my capstone, I just have another Heroku app that singularly runs a file that sends a request to my server. I don't know you can't really view anything on here. It doesn't matter. I'll show you I'll pull this up quick.
Is there a front end to it all?
To my capstone?
Yeah.
Yes, there is. It's honestly astonishing, like how simple this was. Let's see.
So web scraping was a huge part of your capstone.
I wasn't scraping.
You weren't?
No, I wasn't scraping, but I was running an API request every day. So this is the same kind of thing. I'm just sending a request to my API run job. That's all. That's it. That's all this is. So you can try and implement something like that if you want. It'd be an interesting challenge. That's pretty much it for this.
Cool.
I'm gonna stop my recording, but you guys, if you have questions, go for it.
My goodness, all my questions are on the recording. You're welcome, everybody.
I don't know. What is called? Web scraping.